Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on the Right View Ladies Tea. Tonight, we're joined by contributing writer for the Media Research Center, Stephanie Hamill. Welcome back, Stephanie. And editor-in-chief for the Post-Millennial and Human Events, Libby Emmons. Stephanie and Libby, welcome. Libby, first timer on the Right View Ladies Tea. Yeah, we're so stoked. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
We've had some interesting things going on in the Trump family. You may have noticed that, as usual, there is a witch hunt underway for my father-in-law, Donald Trump, our 45th president of the United States. The district attorney of Manhattan, Alvin Bragg, as everyone probably knows at this point, was considering indicting my father-in-law. We don't really know exactly where that stands, but I think, ladies, he may be having second thoughts on it because some interesting polling just came out. 74% of Americans think that a potential indictment of Donald Trump would either help his campaign or have no effect at all, meaning like it's going to do absolutely nothing. So in essence, like, why go forward with something that they know they're probably never going to actually get a jury of his peers to convict him and say he's guilty because he really has not committed any crime. But Libby, I found it interesting because of that 74%, 57% of them were Democrats who thought this would actually help my father-in-law's campaign. And to me, I think I just kind of try to take myself out of it as much as possible. And I feel like so many people look at this and they say, if this is what could happen to one of the most powerful individuals on the planet, and I mean, you could say that Donald Trump, at least at one time as president, was that, what could they do to me? How could this government weaponize itself against me, our justice system? And I feel like a lot of people are really kind of feeling that way, and that's why we saw those poll numbers. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot to be said for that. And I think that the Trump voter is used to being persecuted in the press.
Yeah.
That's certainly not new. They've been going after Trump and Trump voters and Trump supporters and anyone who disagrees with their ridiculous progressive narrative since 2016. So, we're kind of old hat at this. And I think it's clear to Democrats as well that a lot of this, this whole ridiculous persecution, which even Andrew Cuomo came out and said that he believed that this was politically motivated. You look at this and it's hard to believe that it's anything else. Taking a misdemeanor charge of falsification of records, elevating it to a felony, making this huge broad assumption that there's election interference involved. And then you look at Hillary Clinton, who was fined last year. I think she was fined $8,000 for basically the exact same falsification of records charges, which were not elevated to a felony and which resulted in a completely false dossier of documents that led to an impeachment based on false charges. So when you look at it that way, it's really hard to believe that it's anything other than politically motivated. Alvin Bragg and Letitia James have been after Trump this whole time. I think that's apparent to all Americans, not just people who support Donald Trump.
Well, and I think, Stephanie, people who even don't like Donald Trump and would probably love if there was something illegal that he did in his past and they could throw him in jail, they kind of look at this. And I think at a certain point, you're like, well, wait a minute. These are really kind of like authoritarian communist tactics. These aren't things that really should happen in the United States of America. And yeah, I don't really like Donald Trump and I would love for him to go away forever. But it is kind of frightening to think about what this could mean long term. What kind of precedent does this set if in fact he is indicted, if Alvin Bragg goes forward with this? I think it is a very scary situation in America right now. And I think the long-term implications of something like this, we don't even know, but it is a very slippery slope at least at this point.
Absolutely. It's totally a slippery slope. And we have the political left in this country who are trying to run America like a third world country. This is what third world countries do to the political opponents that they don't like. And we've seen this so many times when it comes to President Trump and his inner circle over the years during his presidency. I mean, anyone that is associated with Donald Trump, they want to go after them, whether, they're going after their bank records or taxes, their personal lives. They really try to destroy anyone who is associated with the Trump family, which is really unfortunate. And which is why some of the people who aren't even Trump supporters right now are speaking out against what's going on. And how many times can you cry wolf? How many times have we heard all of these talking heads in the media who don't like Trump say the walls are caving in, they're caving in? I mean, are they not embarrassed for themselves? Like, how many times are they going to allow this to continue to go on without questioning things? I mean, they want this so bad, right? They want something to hyperventilate about on air. Their ratings suck. So they think that, this is like a perfect opportunity to try to generate a new audience to watch their shows, but it's not even working. I mean, we've been tricked so many times. How many times can they try to get away with this? And so again, that's why I think the polling is where it's at, because people are tired of this. And again, it's a warning sign of what could happen in the future. Yeah, they're doing this to the Trump family, the Trump inner circle, and we've seen this going on for years, but it doesn't stop there. Eventually it will trickle on and affect other people and other political parties in this country.
Yeah, it is. It's a very, very slippery slope. It's very upsetting. It's so funny because I talk about this as a member, of course, of this family, like you said, Stephanie, and I have been of the mind, since day one, since the day my father-in-law came down the golden escalator in Trump Tower and announced he was running for president, and people started demonizing him and throwing everything they could at him, and saying things about all of us that weren't true. I always feel like the truth ultimately comes out, and I feel like in some little way, maybe this is the straw that's going to break the camel's back. Maybe this one has kind of shaken people awake, and they're like, well, wait a minute, this seems really stupid and really crazy and very far-fetched. And if you compare the two, like Libby was just doing, the things that the Clinton campaign and Hillary Clinton did, that wasn't just this was sort of an oversight. We miscalculated this. We mislabeled this. No. They purposely did what they did. They got the Steele dossier that then resulted in the Russia collusion hoax that, may I remind the United States of America, cost us as taxpayers tens of millions of dollars, 2 years of our lives. And think about all the great things that could have been done by President Trump while he was in office and having to deal with this nonsense if he didn't have the distraction of that. It's just so crazy that nothing happens on one side, and yet on the other side, they really try to make a mountain out of a molehill. It's insane, but I always stand by the idea that the truth will ultimately come out. I kind of feel like maybe we're at the beginning of that, and maybe people are waking up a little bit and saying something doesn't feel right here, but we still got a long way to go before we shake out all the nonsense, right?
You mentioned the Clintons. What about the Bidens? I mean, there's like a real cloud of controversy.
The whole show, Stephanie, we'd be here for the whole show talking about this, right?
I mean, there is stuff for them to talk about, but they really want to focus on Trump because they don't want to talk about Biden and his failures and the economy and everything else going on right now.
Well, also Trump broke them, right? Like Trump completely broke their brains. Yes. And they don't even want to try and get them back. Do you remember after the 2016 election, everyone was just suddenly saying, and I was, these were my friends, they were just suddenly saying, resist. And I remember saying to them, like, what are we resisting?
Yeah.
Trump is going to be president. Don't you want him to succeed? Don't you want the country to succeed? That's what we should be working towards. And instead it was just anything he said, anything he did was a reason to protest. No one even looked at the fact that he was the most anti-war president we've literally ever had, which to me is so huge. Starting no new wars, that's a spectacular achievement.
Yeah, remember when they all said, Donald Trump is going to start World War III? Right. Well, guess what? We are on the precipice of World War III with Joe Biden in office. So, I mean, it's all nonsense. And I'm going to go out on a limb here, Libby, and guess that perhaps your friends were marching around the United States Capitol with, pink hats on. Just on a limb, I'm going to go out there and say that. But you're right. It's insane. And I think people have been so conditioned to be anti-Trump, no matter what that means, no matter if it's detrimental to the future of this country. But I really do think things have kind of gotten to a point where there are some people that are like, we really can't continue doing this because it's hurting our country, it's hurting our future, it's hurting our children's futures, and this is crazy stuff. Not the least of which, by the way, brings me to how the Democrats have ruined just about everything. They're now in Louisville, Colorado, working on banning new gas stations because there's where you want the emphasis of all of your hard work and all of your everything, right? Democrat-run city, no surprise, wants to ban new gas stations to fight climate change. Here's the thing. You know, I get it if you want to maybe add some more areas to a gas station where people can charge their electric vehicles. Totally on board with all that. Eliminating new gas stations, let's think about what that means, Libby. What does that mean? That means that people who actually are trying to find gas are probably going to have to drive farther to find the gas. They're burning the fossil fuels. It's all going into the atmosphere, thereby just completely wiping out any benefit that these Democrats in this one city in Colorado thought that they were doing to help the environment. Also, what about maybe you're going to have lines now at the gas stations at these pumps waiting to get to the few gas stations left, cars idling, more fossil fuels in the environment and the atmosphere. It doesn't make any sense to me. But here's another thing, just like the gas stoves and all of it, that the Democrats want to get rid of. No more gas stations. You're just going to run out of gas or pollute the environment more, I guess.
Yeah, the thing that I really don't understand about this, well, I wouldn't say I don't understand.
A lot.
The thing that I find the most infuriating aspect of all of these climate change so-called solutions is that it's not enough that they continuously tell us that we're about to enter the final apocalypse of humanity, like some raving lunatic in Central Park pushing a shopping cart telling us that the end is nigh, but they're also demanding to make us believe that they have the exact right solutions. They don't even entertain any alternative ideas. For example, nuclear energy, which is actually shockingly clean, not dangerous, all of this. Instead, they're pushing these sustainable energies on us without any consideration for how batteries are made, the mining that goes into getting, cadmium and whatever else goes into these batteries, the danger of the wind turbines off the coast. We're seeing stuff that it's destroying whales. Meanwhile, fossil fuel came in the first place, and that's how we were able to save the whales because we didn't have to hunt them for whale oil anymore. And this no more gas stations thing isn't going to have any impact on solving this climate change problem. As you mentioned, it's likely to increase these issues that they're seeking to solve. It's a moral cudgel that they're using. Fossil fuel's bad, and so they want us to stop driving our cars, stay locked in our homes, and eat the bugs that they're going to start serving up as the new protein.
Well, that's Stephanie, this is what I was going to ask. So they're saying, well, we're totally, if we're going to ban gas stations, we are totally within our rights to do so. But where does that end? Because don't forget, AOC told us that the farting cows are a real problem. So maybe we're getting rid of meat in grocery stores next. I don't know, like where's the line? If you let people do crazy things like this, is there one, or do we just kind of just fall off the end somewhere and then we're in the abyss? I don't know.
Yeah, we just hear the craziest ideas, and you're talking about AOC and what she said in regards to cheeseburgers. We can't eat cheeseburgers anymore. And you talk about, what's going on at the grocery stores. Food's getting so expensive. I mean, it is getting hard for a lot of people to buy food to eat. And these lawmakers who come up with these ideas about like banning gas stations, it just shows you how out of touch they are with the working class. You can't just ban gas stations and expect people to go buy $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 electric vehicles. This is really going to hurt the working class as they continue to push this. I don't have a problem with electric vehicles. In fact, I think they're great. I love Tesla. They're awesome. I don't own one, but like maybe one of these days I'll get one. But to have this idea that you're just going to eliminate gas stations or ban driving gas cars and everything else, I mean, they just don't realize the struggles that Americans go through on a day-to-day basis. And it's just pretty despicable. And that's really just not going to make a difference. And also the electric vehicles, they also have carbon emissions, and the process of building them. Also, there is some sort of carbon footprint involved with that. And then also national security risk, because we've become very dependent on China. And all of these people who fearmonger about climate change the most are all the same people who are flying in private jets across the world, who have multiple mansions. The Obamas buying a beachfront property. If they were really worried about the world ending in the next few years because of global warming, they wouldn't be buying these beachfront properties.
Yeah,
right?
the sea level is supposed to rise right up and get rid of that house there on Martha's Vineyard, but they seemed very happy to spend quite a pretty penny, if I recall, on their homes. You know, it's funny, you're talking about Tesla. I mean, and of course, we love Tesla. Who doesn't love Elon Musk? I think he's a genius in so many respects, and thank God he, went to Twitter when he did to try and save the free world at this point. But it's just so funny because when I look at these electric vehicles and these very high-tech vehicles like a Tesla, for example, those are the ones that are like driving themselves, right? Like you could take a nap in a Tesla driver's seat and it could drive you. One of my friends recently did this. It drove like 40 miles, weaving in and out of traffic, like stopping at stoplights, exiting the highway. First of all, I find that 100% terrifying. I mean, talk about the AI takeover. You will never see me, I can guarantee you right now with 100% certainty, sitting in the driver's seat of a car, hands off, letting my car tell me how I'm going to drive, where we're going. Absolutely not. I have enough problem with my car now, which happens to be a GMC vehicle. I won't give the full make of it in case somebody wants to hunt me down out there. But when you get in, and it's a 2021 model, I think, when you get in, if you don't move the key around, I guess this is some like child safety thing, it won't let you turn on the car. You got to jiggle the key around because it's a push start car. And I'm like, you know what? Do me a favor. I don't need you to help me. Just start the car. Like, don't tell me the things I need to do. Don't try and overthink this for me. Please just start. So for me, like the Teslas, all of the advancements in the AI space and all that, I actually kind of find terrifying. Libby, are you down with this? Would you ever get in the front seat, driver's seat of a vehicle and let it drive you?
No, I wouldn't. I actually only got my driver's license a couple of years ago. I was very
I'm going to go jump off a bridge. Oh my God.
And I really would like my car to be very manual. I miss the manual roll down windows. I don't want my car to do a whole lot of stuff for me. I just want to be able to drive it and know that I'm in charge of the vehicle and the vehicle is not in charge of me.
It's terrifying. And honestly, I feel like we are just like kids are coddled enough today, Stephanie, if they don't even need to drive the car. Like, where are we headed? How lazy can we actually let people become at this point? Will they have to do anything? We know there's probably a whole generation. Libby, I'm sure you don't know how to drive a manual shift car, right?
No, I don't.
Yeah, because they don't even make them anymore.
I think I could probably figure it out, but no.
More challenging than I appreciated when that was my first car was a manual transmission. But Stephanie, I don't know, if some of this stuff to me, and I don't mean to get off on a tangent, but I see it with all the things they're doing for kids today and having kids now, and you're on the path to having your first coming up real soon. I feel like why are we letting people get so lazy? Can't people get out and drive the car? Can't they work? Can't they do anything?
I mean, okay, so when I was a teenager, the day I turned 16, I had my driver's license. Like I was ready to go at 15 and a half, was out there getting my driver's permit, learning how to drive, wanted to be independent. I don't know if you notice this trend among teenagers these days. A lot of them aren't like super eager to start driving and having their own independence. But I think it's because of Uber, right? They're using Uber and some of these car share apps.
Because before my mom and dad had to drop me off somewhere and I was like, oh, I need to learn how to drive. Yeah, you're right. Uber's changed the game.
I'm not even against these self-driving cars. The technology is just not there yet for me because we've seen so many of these horrendous reports of accidents and stuff happening. I mean, it's fascinating to see where we are, and we always hear about the talks of flying cars and everything else. So, I'm not going to hate on that, but I think that we can definitely be a little bit less lazy and a little more hardworking.
People are so lazy. All right. Well, that brings me to our next topic, which, Libby, I got to get you to weigh in on this. Apparently, it doesn't matter your education, your work experience. According to Gen Z and some millennials, the most important thing in your future is how much identity capital you possess. And I didn't even know this was a thing. Apparently, your 20s are the best time to build it. Stephanie, I've missed that one. That's out the window now. So good luck to me. But is this a real thing, Libby, within sort of the younger generation? And I think it's probably true because I see how much time, like 20-something-year-olds are taking to, get the perfect TikTok video or Instagram post or whatever it is. And apparently, if you want to know how to increase your identity capital, you can do it by traveling, reading books, which I thought was a very basic thing, but okay, cooking, hobbies, and life experience. What do you think? Is this, am I crazy that I probably agree with this? This is like kind of where we're headed, unfortunately.
Yeah, so you're not a human being unless you create an avatar of yourself and then live through that avatar online. That's what you're supposed to do now. But Gen Z is pretty smart. They came up with a label for this. We've seen this coming down the pike for a while. I know when I was in college, the hierarchy of oppression was a whole big deal, and you had more social capital depending on how much more oppressed you were than your peers, so you could add on to it depending on whatever your identity is, and then your sexual characteristics. And, perhaps your dad hit you once when you were a kid. So now you have traumatic childhood experience that you can go on as well. But the kids are very intent on turning themselves into a brand, making sure that they have sealed all the edges and nothing new can come in. They can't be their own person. They have to be an entirely manufactured creation of social media. It's really a shame, that you can't just go around and live anymore. You have to wrap yourself up in specific labels and then live through that. Yeah. So it's not surprising, but it certainly looks remarkably stupid and like a terrible way to live. Honestly.
I just go, Stephanie, I go places and you see it online. Like there are literal accounts that only follow, it's like influencers of Instagram or something, right? But I've seen girls, I'm talking like 15-year-olds, when my husband and I'll go out to dinner somewhere and there's like a, beautiful like waterfront vista or something. And there they are like doing their like TikTok dances and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, what are we doing? You're not even living your life right now. You are actually living to post it to then look like you were living, but you weren't. It's crazy. But I'm a little terrified for what's happening to our kids down the line. And quite frankly, Libby, shout out to you for getting out like intact, because you seem very like you got through this all right. I don't know.
Well, Lara, as you know, if you didn't post it on the gram, it never happened. It didn't happen.
Doesn't matter.
Thank God there was no Instagram, and people really weren't using social media when I was in like high school or college. I mean, rarely. I mean, we were using it, but like not like they are today. I thought this article published by the Daily Mail was pretty interesting. It was kind of a head scratcher because when they said the identity capital, if you will, I thought they were talking about like who's the biggest victim, who's the most woke, everything else. But then I watched one of the video examples that they posted, and it was a Gen Z or TikToker, and she again was talking about some of these basic things like, oh, you can have a better identity capital if you travel, if you do all these other things. I'm like, you mean just like living your life?
Yeah, so go live. Exactly.
Yeah, so she's saying that all of these experiences can help you land a job. And I don't even disagree with that, right? The more you know, the more you interact with people, the more you get to know about different cultures and everything else. I think that helps better you as a person because you have a different view of the world. But to suggest, this is also a funny part in the video. She talks like a Valley girl. So she's like, I was like a journalist, and I went around the world and interviewed like a lot of the best people, and then I walked through the Patagonia, and her other thing was Italian cooking, and she says that she uses these as talking points at dinner parties. Could you imagine how obnoxious it would be to be sitting next to this narcissist at a dinner party or an event? I mean, I would run for the hills.
Yeah, I mean, it's all really kind of sad in so many different ways. But maybe there is something to this, because honestly, I thought that the best way to get a great job was work experience and getting good grades in school and learning a lot there. And that's where I put my focus. Man, did I miss the mark, apparently. But if you actually look at where we are headed with our education in America, I mean, it's not a great trajectory. Things are headed in the wrong direction. You have standardized testing being completely eliminated. So I don't know, maybe these sort of life experiences, so to speak, and of course, it's only an experience if you post it online, are a positive thing for the future. I don't know. I personally hope that by the time my kids get to this point, we have reestablished our footing in our education here in the United States, and that standardized testing is back, and that, you know, our doctors are well taught and they understand everything, and they're not getting through just because they look a certain way or have a certain pronoun or whatever it is. All of that is crazy, but maybe they're on to something here. I don't know. But I guess I need to start working on it.
Can get your foot through the door and it can get you a start. But if you don't have a good work ethic, a good attitude, if you're not reliable, you're not going to last very long. And then that makes me think of the big tech layoff, where we saw a lot of these people working at Twitter or Microsoft or Google who were posting these TikTok videos, a day in the life. And they're just like, sipping on coffee and doing yoga and stuff. And these were all the people that were let go because they were useless.
Yeah.
I've never had a job like that where like you go to work and you get your matcha and then maybe you sort of talk to somebody and call that a meeting. And
you get you mean, Libby, you get your wine out of literally like a spigot in the wall, like whenever you want.
It is go sit on the roof deck and chat with your friends.
I thought those were all fake. When those first came out, somebody sent one to me and I was like, oh, this is a great like satirical post somebody did. And I'm like, no. That is real. That is actually what was happening. Yes. What an epic waste of people's time and money for the company. And I mean, just, yes. So maybe
companies that live off investor funding, they don't even actually make a product.
Right. Oh, it's really crazy. On to attacks against women, because I feel like we could all chime in on this. You know, we've seen time after time how there are some brave women, especially in the sports arena, who are stepping forward and saying, guess what? It is not fair if a man competes against women in women's sports. And, you know, we have had a handful of women come out. There's a female cyclist who recently started speaking out, several of them actually. One of them, a 35-time champ, Hannah Ahrensman is her name. She is quitting because she's saying that she can't even win any races anymore because men are now allowed to compete in these cycling events. And, you know, I talk about it a lot because I still do competitive sports of a certain degree. And I cannot stress enough how much I hate to admit it, but men, of course, are inherently better at sports than women, just based on the structure of their bodies and their physical makeup. But the cycling thing got me to thinking, Libby, a little bit about the Tour de France, right? Or Tour de France, if you will. Now, here's the thing with that one. Obviously, that is like the pinnacle whenever you're a cyclist. And if there were a level playing field between men and women were able to compete alongside men, then you would have women competing in and winning the Tour de France. But they are not. And there is a reason for that. I read some comments on one of these articles, and a lot of people were bringing up Megan Rapinoe and the U.S. women's soccer team. I wonder what their take would be on this if instead of women competing in, you know, the women's soccer, they had men coming in saying, well, I feel like I'm a woman, I'm a transgender woman, and taking their spots that they fought so hard to get their raises for. I don't know.
Yeah, so Megan Rapinoe, she has actually come out in favor of men competing in women's sports for the reason that she believes this is apparently the compassionate thing to do. Meanwhile, I believe this was a while ago, but I believe we saw the Americans women's team beaten by a high school team at some point, a high school boys team.
The men's team, yes.
Yes, I remember seeing this. They were like beaten by the men's junior team. It almost doesn't matter, however, if men are winning in these sports. Now, the cyclist you mentioned, she came in fourth flanked by a man on either side of her. There was another cyclist in New York who recently, a male cyclist who took first place in the women's division, flanked second and third by women.
Mm-hmm.
The second place winner should have, of course, been first. We saw this in swimming. We see this all over the place. There was a Canadian cyclist, Rachel McKinnon, who has changed his name several times to align with whatever identity it is that he's coming up with. And it's just not fair. It's wrong. The men who are doing this should be ashamed of themselves. They know full well that they're not women. Women know these men aren't women. Yet they go out there and they prance around and they say that because they have this fetish, that they want to have breasts or whatever it is, or pretend that they're lesbians because they maybe watch too much porn, that perhaps this is an okay thing for them to do, that we should all get on board. And the thing that's really infuriating about this is the women who back these men and say, oh, yes, yes, Mr. Tall, big man who could probably beat me up. Obviously, you're a woman too, and we should get on board. You know, it's the same old misogyny, just dressed up in new pronouns, and every woman should stand against this.
And I wonder, Libby, what your friends with the pink hats kind of think of this sort of thing, because I got to tell you, I have some friends who I'm fairly certain did not vote for my father-in-law and have very different political views and leanings than I do. And some of them have actually gone out of their way to talk to me about this. But Stephanie, I think it's obvious. Like, we've talked about this before on this show, and I really don't care. I'm all about a happy society. And if people want to do things when they're 18 and mutilate themselves and make themselves feel a certain way, and you're not hurting anyone else or harming or whatever, fine, go for it. The problem I have is this is harming people. This is taking women's sports and just completely, just disintegrating it. It's terrible. And Libby was just referencing, there's a photo of this race in New York where you have the man who won, who is, posing as a woman. There's the man in the first place. And then you have on either side, the second and third place winners who are women. They look happy though. And I'm kind of like, what's going on here? Why do they look so happy? Why aren't they pissed off? And like, this is ridiculous. A dude just won. I mean, nobody sees this. I don't know. I didn't get it.
Yeah, you have to wonder if they are really okay with what's going on, or if they're afraid of the backlash if somebody sees them frown. So I back in my day when I was interviewing young women for the Daily Caller who were speaking out against biological males competing against them in high school sports, they were telling me that their teammates were afraid to come forward and even complain because they didn't want to be labeled a bigot, transphobe. Their parents were afraid to be labeled all of these horrific names because we know what happens.
Yeah.
They'll post you on the internet. Cancel culture will awake to take you down. They'll find out where you live, try to close down your business, burn down your home. I mean, these people are completely insane. And you're right, Lara, there are women who are finally starting to wake up on the left who are saying, hey, wait a minute, this is getting really out of control. It wasn't an anomaly. It wasn't just a one-off. This is growing at a big scale here. And so many women are being left behind because biological males are taking their place, whether it be on the cover of Sports Illustrated, whether it be getting awards and medals in sports. I mean, it's just gotten so ridiculous. And it's also just offensive, right? We have biological males who are putting on women face, putting out the biggest stereotypes of women. When I see that, that's not how I see myself. That's not how I see my friends. I mean, it's really silly. So somebody needs to step on the brakes here. I'm glad people are waking up. We did see the host from the Young Turks speak out against this, saying, that this is offensive. So I think people are going to become more comfortable being vocal about it because it's really gotten out of control.
It's totally out of control. Here's an interesting thing. So I was scrolling through Instagram earlier, and I saw that the New York Post had an article. Here's the title: Trans woman left sobbing in JFK airport after TSA agent hit her testicles. First of all, there's so much to kind of break apart there. Well, when you got to say her testicles, I'm sorry, you really lost, it's all over at that point. But what I immediately thought about is, okay, we all know how it goes in the airport. You have, whenever they have a woman who needs to be screened, do an extra screening, pat down, whatever they're doing, they call a female TSA agent over so everybody is comfortable with the situation. I mean, as comfortable as you can be. For some reason, I always get flagged. I don't know why it didn't happen when my father-in-law was in office. I'm just saying. But think about Libby for a second. The female TSA agent who came over, and this is a man dressed as a woman, and you have to do a pat down and like, okay, how uncomfortable was it for that TSA agent? Where do we draw a line there? I would like to know how she felt about this, because I'm sure she was probably very uncomfortable.
I think that's a really huge point.
Yeah.
I saw this story earlier. I hadn't even thought about the TSA agent. And that's such a huge point. This woman is at work and suddenly she has to deal with a man's whole, below the belt situation because he's wearing a dress. And what we don't see too, and you're talking about this, is this is going on in hospitals too in the UK, where because of gender self-ID, men who are nurses can now say that they're women, and you have a woman saying, I would like a woman nurse, and she gets some bloke in a dress coming in there saying like, oh, I'm a woman. And what you also see is you have Kelly J. Keane, who's a women's rights campaigner, as she says, from the UK. She's been traveling around the world in the Anglosphere, primarily recently Australia and New Zealand, to speak up for women's rights. And her tour is called Let Women Speak. And what she does is she goes to these places and she says, hey, women, you want to come talk about this? Let's all talk about it openly. And in New Zealand, you saw grown men punching older women with fully gray hair in the face. Knocking them to the ground. There were no police around. You had Green Party politicians advocating for the trans rights activists to go out there and make their voice heard. They went out there and started beating up old women. Kelly J had to be transported out of there directly to the airport and out of the country for her own safety. This is what happens when women speak up for their rights. They get told that they have to touch penises at work. They have to get escorted out of the country because men are trying to beat them up. And it really seems like such a shocking cover for these leftist men to go around punching women in the face. And I think that men need to stand up and say no more of this, no more victimizing women in public, no more screaming at women and taking their bodies and their spaces over and over again. I wonder where the men are. Do they think this is just their responsibility? Women are out here fighting for the right to speak, fighting for the right to go to work without having to be harassed by, men in dresses who want to get pat down by a woman. Where are the men? Why aren't they? I mean, you have Matt Walsh out there, you have Charlie Kirk, Jack Posobiec. Yeah. People are speaking up for this. Donald Trump was speaking up for this. I respected that so much. Where are the men? Why aren't they speaking up for us?
It's a great question. I don't know. I hope that more people do. It's just, you have to be able to live in like some semblance of reality. And Stephanie, whenever because I was trying to think about this. Okay, so what are we going to do at the TSA? Are you going to have to have a trans TSA agent, but like of the same direction? So a man who transitioned to a woman or vice versa how confusing is this? Where does the line end? Like what happens here? I don't know, but it is a real question, because all I could think about, obviously, the headline I thought was kind of funny and ridiculous, obviously. But then I was like, well, what do we do? Like, how are we going to do this? They have the bathrooms, right? You have the unisex bathrooms or whatever. But what about this sort of thing? Because that's a weird space to be in. I don't know where we go.
Yeah, and this is a chronic problem that we see over and over again. So transgenders, what bathroom should you use? What locker room should you use? It's just gotten really confusing, and it is confusing for law enforcement and now TSA. Now, this headline about punching them in the testicles, if a TSA agent actually harmed somebody, I would be very concerned about that. I don't like to jump to conclusions when I see these headlines. It makes me think that this person could potentially be the Jussie Smollett of transgenders, right? We've been tricked so many times by hoaxes. So if a TSA agent actually hurts somebody, they should be punished. Now, I'd like to know more about this story. I'm sure it's being investigated. I did see that this transgender person, apparently, I read a report that they started taking down some of the tweets and allegations that they made. So I'm a little skeptical, because I've seen this over and over and over again over the years.
Mm-hmm. Well, so we should always have attention. Yeah, some level of skepticism is very healthy, I feel. Well, ladies, I want to say thank you to Stephanie and Libby for joining us here, The Right View Ladies Tea. If you like this and you want to watch more, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, and send us anything you want us to talk about, too. We'd love to hear what you want to hear from us. So, ladies, thanks for being here today. And to everybody at home, as always, thank you for joining us. We'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View. At The Right View, we're very proud of the fact that we are independent. We get to say everything that we think and everything that we feel. We have no woke companies guiding us or telling us what we can and cannot say. We are always going to shoot you straight and give you the facts as we know them. And that's why it's important to support independent outlets like The Right View. My name is Lara Trump, and I think Mike Lindell is a patriot. He is someone who loves this country, is willing to fight for this country. I love MyPillow because not only are MyPillows made in the USA by American workers, but they're great products, and they're so great that not only do I use them in my own bed at night, my children actually requested. My daughter the other day went to the closet and pulled out a MyPillow and said, "This is the pillow that I want to sleep with." And I gotta tell you, she loves it and will have nothing to do with any other pillow. So it's a big hit around our house. My dogs also happen to sleep on MyPillow dog beds. So all around the Trump household, we're big fans. If you go to mypillow.com today and use promo code Trump, again, promo code Trump, you will not only save money, but you will help us continue this show and other shows like it and help us continue the fight for the future of America. Inflation has impacted all of our lives. I don't think anyone can go to the gas pump or the grocery store without noticing that it is a major factor. And unfortunately, it's not going anywhere. It doesn't seem like it's going down in the way that we would like it to. And one way to protect your money is by investing in precious metals, gold and silver. That's always been a great way to make sure that you keep your money and you keep it safe. When you go to bh-pm.com, use promo code Trump. That way, if you decide you want to invest in gold and silver, you'll save yourself a little bit of money. We live in a time that's very interesting. A lot of us out there feel like a lot of our rights are slipping away. And if you're like I am and you want to have the right to choose whether or not to have a vaccine, how to live your life freely, and you're looking for a great doctor, I've heard amazing things about Dr. Sherwood. He's somebody who you should really check out and check into, and it'll help support this program and keep us going. So go to sherwood.tv and use promo code Trump. Again, sherwood.tv and use promo code Trump. You can save yourself some money and help us keep our program going.
Ladies and gentlemen, this just in. We'll keep this a little secret between you and me and them and everybody. Whoa. The people that are actually at the tip of the spear, working directly with President Trump on a day-to-day basis to save this nation, they're all joining us on the Reawaken America tour. We have President Donald J. Trump's Chief of Staff, Kash Patel. We've got Peter Navarro's joined us on the tour. We have General Michael Flynn. We have Eric Trump. The people actually working at the tip of the spear with President Donald J. Trump to save America are joining us on the Reawaken America tour. Whoa. If word of this gets out, if the truth about election fraud, medical fraud, religious fraud, monetary fraud, and mainstream media gets out, it may just save the nation.
The Reawaken tour is coming to our place, hallelujah. It's gonna be lit. It's gonna be lit. Yeah, it's gonna be lit. Wide slam open.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, on May 12th and 13th, the Reawaken America Tour is coming to Miami, Florida, and to the beautiful Trump Doral Resort and Golf Course. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, the Reawaken America Tour is coming to Miami, Florida on May 12th and 13th. Get your sunscreen ready because General Flynn, Mike Lindell, Amanda Grace, Julie Green, Pastor Dave Scarlett, Dr. Judy Mikovits, Kash Patel, and Team America are taking the Reawaken America Tour to Trump Doral on May 12th and 13th. And then we're taking the God-fearing, revival-starting Reawaken America Tour into Sin City. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are taking the God-fearing Reawaken America Tour to Las Vegas, Nevada on August 25th 25th and 26th. General Flynn and Team America will be taking the Reawaken America tour to Las Vegas, Nevada. And the Patriots will be staying together at Trump International Hotel, Las Vegas, located at 2000 Fashion Show Drive, Las Vegas, Nevada, with zip code 89109 if you want to send them a letter. And yes, Alex Jones will be live and in person at the Reawaken America tour, Las Vegas, Nevada. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, put it on your calendar. Get those tickets right now. August 25th and 26th. Eric Trump, Dr. Peter McCullough, Mel K, Dr. Stella Emanuel, Owen Schroyer, Alex Jones, Seth Holhouse, Pastor Mark Burns, Pastor Leon Benjamin. We're all taking the Reawaken America tour to Las Vegas, Nevada, ladies and gentlemen. Las Vegas, Nevada. And that's going to be August 25th and 26th. Thus far on the Reawaken America tour, we've featured Dr. Dave Martin, the late great Dr. Vladimir Zelenko, Charlie Kirk, Donna Clement Petruska, Sean Foyt, Karen Kingston, Chad Prather, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Dr. Alan Keyes, Mickey Willis, Roger Stone, Dr. Richard Bartlett, and hundreds of patriotic speakers that you know, including Del Bigtree, Thomas Renz, Sidney Powell, Jim Caviezel, Donald J. Trump Jr., Peter Navarro, Klaus Schwab, Yuval Noah Harari, Bill Gates, and the godless globalists have their annual meeting called the World Economic Forum at Davos. But we that reject the Great Reset have the Reawaken America tour coming to Miami, Florida, and coming to Las Vegas, Nevada. Get those tickets at time2freeamerica.com. That's time2freeamerica.com. We have scholarship pricing to make these events affordable for everybody. Every Reawaken America tour event has sold out, so request those tickets today at time2freeamerica.com. That's time2freeamerica.com. Or for faster service, you can send me a personal text to 918-851-0102. It's 918-851-0102. And to be bilingually sensitive, that's 918-851-0102.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by the you know the thing.
We will shut you down. We will cite you, and if we need to, we will arrest you and we will take you to jail. Period.
I wasn't thinking of the Bill of Rights when we did this.
But no amendment to the Constitution is absolute.
God actually spoke to me. He spoke about sacredness. He said to me, Kim, what I place in many, many people is sacred. And if anybody touches what is sacred to me, then it is the end for them. So what I've done in the United States of America is sacred. And there are people on every side that are trying to destroy what I deem sacred. And it's not going to happen.
This is the definition of criminal conspiracy, racketeering, and collusion. This is not a theory. This is evidence.
Because I have upheld this country to spread a light to the rest of the world. When you choose to go against the sacred thing that God puts into the very heart and the soil of this nation, this was sacred to God. Now is the time to act. This is exactly why I need some action from my people. Hello, everybody. It's an honor to be with you.